Today on Hillbilly Voodoo, we're going to build these giant metal cones to keep the government spy satellites from reading our thoughts. And if they don't work for that, then we're going to use them for building rims for these giant, huge tires for our Sherp off-road bug-out buggy project. Stick around, see what type of Hillbilly Voodoo we had to come up with to create these things, or try to create these rims. So for those of you just finding this channel, this is our Sherp style bug-out buggy. Been working on it for a little while. Those of you that are subscribed know that it hasn't been on the channel for a little bit because, well, we've been kind of waiting on parts. We have 4 of those big tires, but we only have 2 rims. And long story short, I've been waiting around for 2 rims that were promised to me, and well, some people really suck and they renege on their promises. Yeah, so instead of waiting around here hoping to find another set of 26 by 20 rims, which seem to be like hen's teeth around these parts, I think that I'm going to try to build myself some rims, which in the long run might not be a bad thing if I can get them to work, because those rims there that I was waiting on are 200 pounds. And yeah, I kind of don't really want a 200-pound rim. I'd much rather have a lighter one. So we're going to try to build some 26 by 20 rims to put those big, huge tires on. Is this going to work? I have no idea. I've made little rims for like lawn tractors and stuff like that, but I have never tried to do something that big. Yeah. So what's the first step? Well, we got to kind of plan out what we're going to do here, because like everything else that we build on this channel, we build it with the crap that we have laying around on the ground obtainium. And the materials that we have, well, they're not always quite the materials that you probably need. So let's see what we're going to have to do to create a rim. So what I'm thinking we're going to need here is 2 cones. Within the center of those 2 cones, our rim, or our whatever you want to call it, the rim center that mounts to our hub. So we'll need a cone this way and a cone this way. Wow, that kind of sucks for a drawing, but anyways. Like that. Does that kind of make sense? This part's going to bolt to the hub. Our tire will be able to drop down in the well when we mount it. Now I want to make these a beadlock, double beadlock rim. Like I say, the material that we have to build these out of is not exactly very thick. It's pretty thin. And I don't know if this is going to work. Now, I've made cones in the past, small ones, funnels, things like that, ends for pulse jet engines, things that require a cone. So the only way that I know of making a cone, or making a pattern for a cone, the easiest way is you cut out a circle the size of that end, and then you cut out another circle the size of that end of the cone. The distance between that circle and that circle, you put a stick between the 2, and then you roll that pattern out on something. Is that sort of kind of making sense? I've totally stolen this idea from Colin Furs. You should watch his channel. He's kind of does some weird stuff. But anyways, yap. We need to find out the diameter of that circle and the diameter of that circle. So let's go do some measuring. Now let's take some measurements of the rim that we have on here right now. We have this wheel spacer in behind it. So we need to know the distance from the edge of the wheel spacer to the edge of the wheel spacer, because we're not going to be building a wheel spacer, we're just going to be building the whole rim. we need to know the diameter of the rim and the offset of where it's going to be mounted on our hub. Can everybody see? Yeah, you in the back there with the cheesy dust all over your nose and your mouth. Yeah, get that thing out of your mouth and pay attention. Okay, so let's find back spacing. Right now is 8 3/4 inches. I guess this isn't really the back spacing, it's the front spacing, but anyways, it doesn't matter. This cone we're going to be making for the outside is 8 3/4. Wait a minute. No, that's 9 inches. So 9 inches plus our wheel spacer. Wheel spacer is 3.5 inches. So that's 12.5 inches of depth. So if I figure out the outside cone diameter and all that stuff, I know that the whole rim needs to be 20 inches wide. So once I get the outside cone built, then I can build the inside cone 20 inches, minus 20 inches. That's making sense in my head, but I don't know if it's coming out of my mouth in a way that anybody else can understand it. But like I say, just keep watching. If you're confused, it's okay. I spend half my life confused. So we know the depth that we need of this cone, or height of the cone, or whatever you want to call it, is 12.5 inches. We know that the rim is from the inside to the inside of the tire is 26 inches. So we're going to need a bit of a lip on the inside for our bead lock. So let's go to so we'll go 28 inches for the diameter of our cone. Now, our wheel mounting surface here. I was going to cut out another ring like this so we could bolt, but you know what? I have a whole bunch of 8-bolt rims out there that are pretty much no good. They're not good for anything I'm ever going to use them for. So I think I'm just going to cut the center, the wheel mounting surface, out of one of those or two of those 8-bolt rims, and then we'll have the bolt pattern and everything all ready to go. We won't have to build no goofy adapters or nothing like that. So does that sound like a good idea? Well, it doesn't matter if it's a good idea or not. It's the only one I got, so go with what you know, right? So let's go cut the center out of one of those rims, and then it'll give us an idea of the size around that the center actually is. So what I think we're going to do here is cut the center, like I said, out of this rim, and we'll have the inside. Yeah, I guess it's the inside. It'll be the inside diameter of our cone. I think maybe I'll try to cut it out here. Give myself a little bit more roundness to this. I can stick it in the lathe and turn it down all nice and nice like. So let's get chopping on this with the angle grinder. Like I said, these rims are garbage, so they won't ever be used for anything else. We got 2 of them. Almost looks like those bolt holes had come loose at one time too, and they're a little bit wallered out there, but that's okay. For what we're doing with it, it'll be a thing. So let's start chopping on there and see how long it takes us to get the center out of this rim. Well, I got our two rim centers here cut out. That's what I'm going to call them, rim centers. I don't know what you would call them. Maybe you could leave a comment in the comment section. What would you call them? Look like rim centers to me. Anyways, let's mount them up here in the lathe, and we'll turn them both to the same diameter, so we only have to make one pattern to build our rim things here. It's kind of funny how I ask people for comments in the comments section, and the reality is that my wife won't even let me out in public by myself in case somebody actually makes a stupid comment and I end up choking the piss out of them. Yeah, it's kind of weird, eh? Anyways, let's spin these up, get them the same roundness. Roundness, does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. Same roundness, same size. And then we'll go about making our pattern for our rim, or for our cone, I should say. Now that we got our rim center all cleaned up here, I have this old crusty piece of plywood, and we're going to make our two circles for either end of our pattern out of this, so that we can screw them on either end of the board for the height. Now, what was the size? We need 28 inches, so the big circle's got to be 28 inches in diameter. Radius of that 14. So let's go mark it 14. We're going to put a screw in there for our center point. And because I don't have a compass that's big enough to scribe out a circle this big, we're going to use a piece of string, or a piece of wire, or whatever the heck we can find laying around here on the ground for our compass. Let's go find something that we can use as our compass. Well, let's see what we got laying around here that we can use for our compass. Well, there's a piece of string there, baling string. But you know what? I don't want to bend over right now. So, how about we use one of the pieces of baling string that's right here. Yeah, that'll work. And I don't have to bend over. Okay, let's tie us a loop in one end here. Loop that over there. We'll go out to here. We'll tie us another loop here. Looks good there. Take your pencil, make a circle. Well, let's try not to break the pencil for one thing.
Got our circle there, it's 28 inches, I hope. Let's measure it and make sure. Yep. Well, let's go grab the jigsaw and chop that out. Well, let's trace out our rim center here and chop her out while we got the saw out. Okay, so we got our two circles joined here now in the middle. The distance between the outside edge and the outside edge is the height that we need our cone. Is that making sense to everybody now? Okay, now the whole idea here is we have the radius marked on the outside. I don't know if you guys can see that line very well, but there's a line that comes all the way to the outside here. And we mark the radius on the outside. There's a line on the inside, exactly the same. Mark that line on the inside. And as you can see, as we roll this pattern, it's going to make our arcs. Now, that radius line goes all the way through to the other side. So this, when we roll it, see if I can do this and show you guys at the same time here. As we roll this and mark it, see, we're buggering off. Roll this and mark it all the way around on both the inside and the outside. See that line there? We've rolled it halfway now and marked it. So that has given us half, or actually I've rolled it all the way, but marking it there has given us half of our pattern. I don't know if the lines are very good or not. You can see, sort of kind of see. So that's the pattern for our cone. Now I don't know if I'm going to cut this out of the plywood or if I'm going to roll it right out on the metal, cut it out into halves, because obviously that is taking up way too much and wasting way too much. I can nestle them in if I cut it, or nest them if I cut the pattern in half and use up less, or have less waste material. That's what I'm thinking anyways. So I guess the only thing we can do is bring our piece of metal down here and start tracing it out and make sure we have enough for, well, I guess we're going to need 2 of these cones for one wheel and 2 cones for another wheel. So yeah, hopefully we'll have enough material here. So let's go grab our metal and figure out what we're going to do. So here's a piece of metal that we're going to be using. This is an old furnace oil tank that I've cut the ends off of and folded it out flat. Oh, and there's the tires that we're building our rims for. Now, normally I would just grab this and walk it down to the shop, but I've been hiding something from my subscribers for the last little bit, and it's the fact that I have seriously blown out my calf muscle, tore it, ruptured it, and walking ain't really a good thing right now, and definitely walking with a giant piece of steel would be even worse. So we're going to have to figure out how we're going to get that down from here all the way down over there to the shop. Now, I'm going to use my hydraulic helper here, but the major issue with that is, how are we going to get a 350-pound vanilla gorilla into that thing with a blown up calf muscle and a broken hand? Yeah, I didn't mention that either. I got a busted thumb. So you guys are going to get a bit of a show here. You know, if I fall down and die, maybe somebody could phone an ambulance. But yeah, whatever. Watch this performance. time it took me to go park my excavator there and slither my way out of it, my sawhorses decided they were going to turn to crap, and we're now on the ground. So maybe that's a good thing. I'll just grab my tools and splat my butt down there in the dirt, and if I'm already on the ground, then I can't fall on the ground, right? So, but I think we're going to leave this one for tomorrow. It'll only be the blink of an eye for you, but I've had enough for today, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. So after spending the night thinking about it, I decided that flopping around on the ground like some sort of SeaWorld attraction probably wasn't such a good idea for the healing of my leg. So I got out my other set of sawhorses and put my wood on top of them here. And I found this really thin sheet of plywood, stuff that I use for boat building. And this is not very good, so I won't be using this for boat building. I'm going to take my pattern and I'm going to trace it out on this, cut it out, and it should be a lot easier to trace this flat pattern out onto the metal to get what I want. And I might even be able to sort of kind of roll this stuff maybe into a cone just to test it out. So let's trace the pattern out on here and see if this is going to be a better idea, or maybe a safer idea. Yeah, safe. Who cares about safe? Let's just do it. Well, you guys might be able to see these lines on this plywood a lot better now. It's better contrast, I guess. We're going to cut this pattern out, and we're going to cut it in the middle. Like I said, then we can nest these sections together and not waste quite so much material. Now, my lines must be pretty close, because if you look at the intersection, there's just a little tiny triangle in there where it's not all touching, but it's really close. So I guess our circles were pretty round. So let's chop this out and then see what we're going to have to do to transfer it to the metal. So I've cut our pattern in half there and traced it out on the metal. It was a hell of a lot easier than rolling it out. And I got it nested. Yeah, that's the word, nested. Have it nested together so that I'm using a lot less, or have a lot less waste. So I'm going to cut that out, and we're going to try to make a cone out of it. You think this is going to work? Leave your comment in the comment section. And who are we going to blame if this doesn't work? Now remember, I'm an atheist, so I can't blame God. And I'm an anarchist, so I can't blame politics. So who am I going to blame if this doesn't work out? Yeah, leave your comment in the comment section. Well, let's chop this out and see what happens. Hey, look at that, I made a cone. Why didn't I show any of the making of this cone? Because it was a total cluster, that's why. I welded the two pieces together and tried to roll it in my roller. And yeah, trying to stand up with a buggered up leg and a thumb that's not working and trying to bend this and move it in the roller. Wow, 100% cluster. I'm not even going to show you how I did it because it was about as stupid can be. So we're going to try a different way and hopefully, see, I made a cone, but it ain't very awesome. I'm going to have to do a little bit of whacking on it to make it more awesome enough to use. But we're going to try a different way. And hopefully this will be less of a cluster. Have our other pieces cut out here. I have reference lines on them. The problem is when you feed this material into the roller, you have to have the roller kind of slide along the same arc. Now there's different pieces and adapters and such that I could probably build for this roller to make it slide and blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm not going to bother screwing around with that. I have these reference lines here. I am going to take these pieces, put them into the roller, and then slowly tighten the roller down on each reference line so that it starts to kink the metal like that. It won't necessarily be a full smooth roll all the way through, but I figure once I get every little kind of reference kinked all the way around, it'll start to put the arc into it at least, and then maybe I can roll it a little bit. As it is, if I weld these two pieces together, it's just way too much material for me to handle by myself right now with the way my roller is and the way all the body parts are not working. So you got to do what you got to do, right? Use what you got to make what you want. I'm going to start putting kinks in here. Well, like I said, put it in there, squeeze it down on each one of these lines. It's going to be a little bit more, take longer and be more repetitious, but I'm hoping that it will work a lot better than the way I was trying to do it last time, because that was just stupid. So let's see what we can do here to set you up in a way that you can see what I'm doing, and in a way that I can do what I'm doing without overdoing it. Did that make sense? That totally made sense. Without overdoing it, because yeah, like I say, the other way I did it was a total cluster. Okay, we're going to start by feeding this into our slip roller here. Get it lined all up here nice, kind of with our reference lines. And then we're going to start squeezing it down with our rollers. I'm hoping this is going to work. We're probably going to have to do this gradually. Kink it a little bit, loosen it off, slide it. So you can see from this angle, I am lining these reference lines up with the roller. Then I'm pushing down by squeezing and turning my little screws here. And that is putting an arc in that on the reference line. Then I'll move it, put an arc on that reference line, move it, put an arc. You know what I'm saying here. I just keep moving my way all the way around that cone shape, or that arc shape, make it into a cone. Is this gonna work? I sure hope it's gonna work. So far it's easier than what I was trying to do with the other screwing around, but yep, Let's keep poking away here and see what happens. And now that we've worked our way around and kinked and pressed and got this kind of sort of forming into a cone, I've got it bumped up against the end here, and I'm hoping that I can roll it now and it will slide along the edge here and that end will pull out. Kind of roll some of the little divots and kinks and such out of it. Hopefully it will work. I'm glad that when I built this roller, I built the handle so that I can reposition it. It's been pretty handy on this project. I'm just going to work it back and forth here, and hopefully it will smoothen this cone out into a cone instead of some type of weird pyramid. Pyramids have flat sides, right? Cones have round sides, curved sides. That's the right. Well, that has smoothed that out remarkably well. I think maybe I'll squeeze it just a little bit more. It's probably easier to, I don't know, it would have been easier to squeeze it together with it being sprung or unsprung. Give it a little bit more and then we'll go work on the other side. Well, I got our two cones curled up here now and stuck kind of together. They don't look too bad, and they were definitely a lot easier to handle in two pieces than they were in one piece, so that's a good thing. I'm going to tack this together here, and I think I'm going to call this a video because, yeah, the pieces that I have aren't exactly working properly anymore, so we're going to have to go in the house and stick some ice on them. So, you guys want to follow along on this project, you probably best subscribe because this is obviously going to be more than one video. And while you're at it, you can go check out some of the other projects and the projects that these giant wheels are going to go on. So until next time, guys, use what you got to make what you want, and I'll see you later.